Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Lapadara, and I'm joined today with my colleagues Mackenzie Borgault, Rena DeRosier, Kian Kahane, and Brett Nesmento. We are leading industry experts and business consultants here today to emphasize the importance of giving and receiving feedback in the workplace. We will provide our recommendations, supporting insights, and highlight pitfalls that can occur when this crucial business practice is overlooked. I want to start us off today by asking you to put yourself in this scenario. You're at work, sitting in a dimly lit conference room, listening to a colleague drone on and on about next quarter's sales projections. The air smells of stale coffee, and you hear the sound of multitasking coworkers clicking away on their keyboards, not paying an ounce of attention to the speaker at the front of the room. After what feels like an eternity later, your colleague wraps up his presentation and dismisses everyone from the conference room. As people are eagerly rising from their chairs, your colleague asks the group, "Hey, how did I do? What did you think of the presentation?" You stare around the room in disbelief as your fellow audience members murmur words of praise, applauding the speaker for an entirely underwhelming performance. Your colleague turns to you expectantly, innocently anticipating a similar reaction. You pause as you survey the room, and you decide to speak the truth. "Tom," you say, "you lost the audience halfway through your presentation. I think in the future, you may consider condensing the data and providing a high-level overview. Since we're not all finance and sales professionals, the content was difficult to understand, as it was tedious and over our heads." The practice of providing direct, constructive feedback in the workplace has been infuriatingly overlooked as an organizational necessity. By letting go of the need to be liked and focusing on the bigger picture, we will understand the importance of direct, constructive feedback in the workplace. Up next, Mackenzie is going to discuss supporting statistics and insights to shed light on the distinctive impact giving and receiving effective feedback makes in the workplace.
Based off research, 75% of employees believe that feedback is valuable. Additionally, 45% of these individuals value feedback from customers and peers. In reality, less than 30% of these individuals actually receive feedback in their work. As an employee in a setting like this, it becomes extremely aggravating. Since the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, turnover rates have been at an all-time high. Throughout this time, there has been a 14.9% lower turnover rate in companies that implement regular employee feedback. As we see a new generation coming into the workforce, companies need to do whatever they can to avoid employee turnover. The cost of turnover can be as much as 1.5 to 2 times an employee's salary, depending on the individual's seniority. Additionally, 39% of employees report that they don't feel appreciated at work. This goes hand in hand with the high turnover rates. If an employee isn't feeling appreciated and valued at their job, they will most likely go somewhere else. It is also important to note, 43% of highly engaged employees receive feedback at least once a week, compared to 18% with low engagement. This shows how strong the relationship between feedback and engagement is. These statistics show how important feedback in the workplace is no matter the situation. Up next, Brett is going to touch on recommended approaches for successful feedback interactions.
So when going to give feedback, it is important to establish a welcoming and safe environment for feedback, because without this in place, the employees and the managers within that workplace won't feel comfortable providing actual genuine and productive feedback in the future. And with that said, it's important that this isn't exclusive to higher level employees providing feedback just to lower level employees, but also employees of lower level providing it to those of higher level in management or executive positions, as it can help the company just as much. With feedback, it's also important to be very specific and include examples within your feedback to ensure that the individual you're giving the feedback to is able to have a complete understanding of what you're trying to get at with your feedback. And in addition to that, you want to make sure it is constructive, reasonable, and actionable, and it's not something that isn't a plausible thing that someone can improve upon or work on. And also, with the feedback, it's important to consider the setting you give the feedback in, as it might not be most appropriate towards the other individual. If you were to just give feedback that was really harsh in front of everyone, and maybe you would want to do it in a more private setting. And as for the tone and the feedback provided and received, you want to make sure that you're respectful of the individual and not degrading or talking down to them in any way, because ultimately you're just trying to help them and you don't want it to come across in any other way. And in the future, you want to be mindful and look for when people actually use that feedback, because you can then praise them for that and it can start to potentially become a cycle. Up next, Kian's going to tell us about what can happen if feedback is not used in the workplace.
So what happens if you don't give or receive feedback effectively in the workplace, and how could it affect the company? So without feedback, people may be satisfied with their work. So without having somebody check on employees' work day to day, some people may just get satisfied with their work and says, oh, I'm just doing the normal that's getting me by, so why not continue to do it? Some employees may become complacent with their work because they don't receive regular feedback. So again, it's just like another employee that is just getting by and doing the work to get by. Meanwhile, there's no employees like really checking on, or this employee is not going out of their way to get the feedback. This could lead to really bad habits, because if mistakes are made in reports or business statements and stuff like that early on, it can continue to kind of lead the company in not such a great direction. If you don't give feedback, it takes away from others' learning experiences. So obviously when you send like a pitch or anything, you want to get everyone else's opinion and make sure like A, you're confident, or B, like you need to improve on. So if this doesn't happen overall, you're never going to get to where you want to go, because you always want to be one step better. Some ways that it can definitely hurt the company is if people don't voice their opinions honestly. If people kind of just go behind people's backs and doesn't really voice it, the main problem right away, that can kind of cause conflict within the company if some employees are talking behind other employees' backs. It holds back from the overall growth of the company. It doesn't really allow the company to expand from where they are. It kind of just allows them to stay put where they are. It allows the company to get complacent rather than grow and expand. It doesn't allow the company to take the company to new heights. It kind of just leaves them on this pedestal rather than where they think they should be. And also, it doesn't allow the company to debate their opinions, because no one is voicing their opinions to the other side. So it's just like if you're in a meeting and you propose something and you get absolutely no feedback back to you, you really think, did I do something wrong? Is it me? But in reality, it's really the people around you that are not engaged in giving feedback to the company. Up next, Rena will be talking about why we should care about feedback in the workplace.
Thank you. We now all know reasons how poorly administered feedback can hurt a company, but why? Because people come first. That's why feedback is important. Employees are the reason why a company works. Their growth comes first. Not only does a bad job of giving and receiving feedback affect the company, but it negatively impacts our own image as well. In addition, avoiding the task altogether will curb growth on an individual and company-wide level. It matters what we do and how we say it. Our methods of communication also matter. Our nonverbals govern how others think and feel about us, but also how we think about ourselves. People come first, ourselves and others, then the business. To give and receive feedback requires thoughtful interpretations of what we're trying to say, but being direct and honest. We want others to hear us, but truly we want them to understand. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Thank you for listening today. Are there any questions?